Been a while since I put some content. I've been so busy helping clients create some amazing applications and automations, and I've really moved into using OpenAI's brand new assistants. I don't know if you've heard about that. I don't see a lot of people talking about assistants. It's kind of like the custom GPTs on steroids. And so I wanted to spend the time showing you some projects that I've been working on and how to use assistants and show you some of the possibility. I've built this multi-agent AI workflow for a client who's in the educational space and who really wants to revamp and step up its game on how they create content, particularly content that can easily rank. And so I've got a client that's pretty SEO savvy and he's created some pretty amazing custom GPTs on his own that produces some amazing output that can rank, but it's a very manual and arduous process. So we found, is there a way that we can automate this a little bit more so that the human touch points, instead of having 7, maybe it's down to 3. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on here today. I want to show you. So let me talk about assistants for a little bit here. Maybe you've heard about them, maybe you haven't. I have only been using these for about a couple weeks. So if you have a planned or paid plan or upgraded version of ChatGPT, you can use these assistants. And so you go to platform.openai.com/assistants and you can create these. And so they're pretty easy to create. And so, but don't let the simplicity of its creation fool you. So let me just give you a quick overview of some of why assistants over custom GPTs. I love custom GPTs. I mean, it's a nice interface. You got the ability to upload files so you can have a little knowledge base in your custom GPT. It's a pretty simpler implementation, but now we go into assistants, boy, it opens the whole different world. Some critical advantages: you got multi-agent coordination. So I can create separate agents with distinct roles. Now, in this case, I've got 2, and it's not crazy, but we've got a quality assurance manager and we've got a content writer. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that I can, unlike a custom GPT where I kind of limited to what it's kind of doing one thing, I can put in a pretty comprehensive prompt, and it can get more comprehensive than this, where it has multiple responsibilities. And depending on what I feed it or programmatically send it from a workflow, I can activate just certain aspects of it, if that makes sense. And so that is a nice advantage if you can wrap your head around that. And then you can also have these persistent threads, meaning I create a thread and I can have conversations persistent every time I go back and I call the assistant, if you will. It can, and if I pass along the thread ID, it can remember other things that you've done. And so you've got that continuity like you have when you have a great conversation in ChatGPT. And of course, you got programmable workflows, which I'll show you here in a second, where you can use something like N8N or Make or Zapier, and you can create these complex decision trees, which I'll show you in a second. This API first approach, so you're calling it through an API so you can trigger and monitor it programmatically. And again, that thread management, which makes the ability to pass context between different assistants, is amazing. And that knowledge storage, like down here in a file search, I can put files in here and they can store it in a vector store for me, and I can put up to 20 files. You can put a lot of context in here. Also a code interpreter, and you can also call functions outside of here. So say you've got some sort of app or a Python code that does some certain thing and produces some output, and you can attach it to your assistant and take that output into your assistant. So this opens up a whole world of possibilities. And so that's what I want you to kind of wrap your head around. They really are like custom GPTs on massive steroids. So let's look at this kind of workflow, or one aspect of it. There are multiple workflows in there. I'm just going to show you the first part of that, which is it creates a custom outline, if you will. And so everything where you see like these little globes, it's like I'm getting ready to call one of those assistants that I had. And in this case, it grabs information from a form, takes all those fields, gets the assistant ready, and sends a message to them, and it creates a unique prompt that will send to the copywriter based on the core keyword that we're trying to create an outline for, and then send it to a copywriter. The copywriter will then take a first stab at the outline, and then when it gets it done, it'll extract that outline and will send it to the QA again. And this is what's important, that it's doing, even though I'm sending it to the same assistant, it's doing something different than when I interacted up here. 2 totally different things. And so Same assistant, but because of what I sent it, it's only activating certain parts depending on what I put in that initial prompt, those system instructions, if you will. And if it's got all those attachments and all that thing and other functions, you can have it do a whole host of things. So you're not limited. So that's the thing I want you to understand. And then it sends that outline and it does a little scoring aspect and then gives a score. And based on the score, it either approves the document and writes it to an Airtable or it rejects it. And if it rejects it, it sends a new prompt, a new outline back to the copywriter to write a revision, right? And it keeps doing that and then sends it back. I need to put the lane back up to QA and starts to process all over again. And then this is an approval that with certain limitations or functions. So it does a lot of things. And so I won't get all the details, but I'll show you how it runs here. Let's test this workflow and it's waiting for a trigger event. And so in this event, here's the input form that I have right here. And let's submit it and let's just see what it does. And you can see it's activated. It's creating a prompt. It's activating the assistant in OpenAI right now. And then this is a little wait node, a loop until it runs the prompt. It's waiting for a completion before it goes. And then it's done. And then it sends that response to the copywriter. The copywriter is actually running its prompt. The assistant is doing its work behind the scenes. And here it's just waiting for it to complete. When it completes, it's going to send it back down, back to the QA, like we said. And in the QA, it's running the assistant again with a different instruction, same assistant, but completely different instruction. And it's waiting. And when it's done, it sends it here to the score. It looks like it's approved and it sends the output to the Airtable and it writes a Google Doc. And you can see right here, this is the Airtable and you can see it populated all these fields automatically. And there's the outline. You can also view it in a different way here. You can see there's the outline that it created for the human to review, some QA feedback that it got from the assistant. Pretty powerful stuff. And it also, if you look in the grid view, it did create a Google Doc that you can open and read as well. Pretty amazing, pretty good stuff. And this is just the first part of the flow. There's a whole nother workflow that takes that outline that we've created, and then we write each section by section one at a time, doing multiple passes, maybe like 10 phases. And so it's just so much more powerful things that you couldn't do with the custom GPT. So this was a real aha moment for me in the last couple of weeks, where the real breakthrough, where you're what I call the controlled prompt delivery. And so remember with assistants like that QA agent, it can hold the entire prompt sequence without revealing all of it at once. I can call specific things and specific instructions, release instructions to the copywriter agent in a structured way. For example, in the copywriter agents, I may have 10 different phases that I want them to focus on. This first phase, I want you to focus on this aspect of writing. On the second phase, I want you to do this. Well, in my detailed workflow, I can tell it that, and it will do it that. Unlike a custom GPT where it's just kind of running the same instructions all the time. So you're maintaining control over this workflow rather than dumping all the instructions at once, if that makes sense. So this level of control isn't possible with a custom GPT, which would have access to all at once. So another key advantage is that knowledge feature. Remember, you can attach those files into a vector store within the assistant. So you can load different reference material, you can roll SEO guidelines, technical requirements. The copywriter agent has access to style guides, voice examples, brand identity, whatever the case may be. And so this separation of knowledge helps each agent stay focused on a specific role. A few technical aspects worth mentioning. We're using OpenAI's Assistant API with those two distinct assistants. It's just two. It can have multiple. And you got the copywriter agent and the QA agent. And then the N8N workflow, this could be in Zap or Make here, but I'm using N8N. That does the status checking. It does the polling. It does the content extraction, the processing. It does the decision tree logic, right, with the different paths, approved, rejected, or whatever. And then you've got the Google Docs integration. You've got the Airtable integration. So that's where having that automated workflow makes these assistants that much more powerful. And then we've implemented these kind of custom function calling capabilities. So we can generate the Google Doc link. We can upload the Airtable. We can notify people. I can email you. I can Slack you when I'm done. So look, this system, just starting right here, has transformed that client content creation process. It reduced those touch points where you had maybe 7 human interactions are sitting up there. Now we can just fill out a form. We can let the flow and the assistants do the work. doing multiple iterations, and then finally pause when we want that human interaction or wherever we want it. So we're down to 2 or 3 critical human touch points as opposed to 7 or 8 before. So this is a scalable system that can handle multiple content pieces simultaneously. And if we need to change the instructions, we still got the workflow on break. We just change the prompt in the assistant, right? We change the logic or whatever we want that assistant or agent to do. So if you're building AI systems that require workflow management or multiple specialized agents, if you've got workflow challenges, this is the opportunity with AI. They can just be simple processes. In this case, he's writing blog posts is nothing new, but he's taking it to a whole nother level, and you can do that too. The ability to create multiple agents with different roles and control the information flow, that opens up possibilities with more sophisticated applications. So this is exciting. And so that combination of knowledge files, function calling capabilities makes the assistants, I think, particularly powerful in these workflow automations. And it's at your fingertips if you've got a ChatGPT subscription. So function calling lets your agents interact with external systems. I'm just exploring that now, but think of the power of what if I wanted a specific Python function that did something very complex and I got the output? You could do that and now have that output be fed into this assistant. It's just amazing. And so you can just create these flexible and powerful systems that just wasn't possible with custom GPTs. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. If this sounds overwhelming, it sounds confusing, let me know. You can reach out to me if you need help building these. I'm always available to do that. I'm helping 5 organizations right now do similar things. And now using the assistants, it just opens up this world of possibilities. So what ideas are coming up in your brain after watching this? Let me know in the comments.